أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد. For last week we spoke a little bit about Al-Hur Al-Ain, and I'm sure everyone got the picture. And we're going to skip some of the specifics about Al-Hur Al-Ain. A lot of that which came is from weak narrations or from the statements of some of the ulama. But the understanding is that they have been created for as part of the pleasure in paradise, just like people enjoy the fruits and the rivers and the castles and the jewelry and the clothing, the servants, etc. Part of the pleasure that Allah Azza wa Jalla has created in the paradise, especially for specifically here for the men, is Al-Hur Al-Ain, and they are created for a reason, and this is in line with the nature of the man. And we spoke a lot about how sisters can understand that jealousy they have towards them, and how it's not an issue in and of itself to have that jealousy. This is natural, but they understand that men are different from women, and men like certain things and women like certain things, and these are one of the things that Allah Azza wa Jalla rewards according to their nature. Jayyid. And we also mentioned some of the things that women in general can understand from or can learn from Al-Hur Al-Ain in terms of how to be in and of themselves, and also regarding their spouses. Today, inshallah Azza wa Jal, we continue also to do with the women of paradise, but not the women that created for men in the paradise, but some of the best of the women that walk the earth that the Prophet ﷺ told us are the best of women in paradise. And they are four, very famous. Who are they? Maryam alayhi salam, Asya alayhi salam, Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and Fatima radiyallahu ta'ala anha. في أحاديث also that speak about Aisha radiyallahu anha, but this specific narration about the best of the four, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in one narration, أفضل نساء أهل الجنة خديجة بنت خويلد وفاطمة بنت محمد ومريم بنت عمران وآسية بنت مزاحم امرأة فرعون. We'll speak about each of them individually, inshallah, because it's important to know not only who these women were, but also what made them great. And for Muslims in general, whether you're male or female, when you learn about people in history, not only does it strengthen your iman, and it's important for you to know, but it's a guide for you to follow. It's a guide for you to follow. One of the things that every single human being needs are role models. And of course, nowadays, who are the main role models of people in society? Who are the main ones?
Sheikh Nassim.
Why everybody laughing?
If you follow him, Allah yahdik. The main ones are the actors and the actresses and the singers, the celebrities, the sports stars. These are the role models of people. If you take as a little case study, just what we have now, which is blown up all around Australia, the Matildas. Now, they're in the news every single day, and everyone's talking about them, and mashallah the stadiums are full. The goal is not just for people to appreciate the Matildas now, but this is part of a bigger agenda to get my daughters and your daughters and the young girls in Australia and beyond to want to be like who? To want to be like them. One of the main things you hear in all of the interviews for these women that are playing now, they would say they came and they watched the Matildas play in the 1990s, and they knew from that day they wanted to be like them. So khalas, they got so encouraged that these were the women they wanted to follow in their footsteps. Not only that, they want to break down barriers for others. So now people are saying, yes, we want our daughters to be inspired by these individuals. Okay, no problem. People, they stop there and they think, what's wrong with that, Sheikh? What's wrong with aspiring to be someone that's well known, someone fit, athletic, someone that can perform on the world stage, someone that is representing their country? These things individually, yes, maybe they're not a problem in and of themselves. No issue. But what is really intended, and what are the real consequences that come from these types of inspirations that people have? These types of people that they aspire to be. The majority of them, or if not, we won't say all of them, we won't even say the majority of them. a big number of them are homosexual. A massive number of the female athletes, especially these types of sports, a massive number of them are homosexuals. Question, do you as a Muslim, or even a person who thinks rationally and logically and understands basic biology, do you as an individual want your children to grow up to be a homosexual? Obviously, the answer is going to be no. The first step to widespread homosexuality is the achievement of the acceptance of homosexuality. This is the first step. Once people accept it, then people can start to promote it and take the steps towards it. If you look tens of years ago, in the 60s and the 70s, no one came out openly as homosexual. This was something extremely shunned. Very bad. Many of those who at that time were looked at the idols and symbols of heterosexuality actually came out later as being people of homosexuality. They got to a point in the 60s and 70s where they pushed and they continued to push for the people to accept them. This is a choice, just like male and female. This is male and male, this is female, female. And they knew people would accept more the female, female. Because men, they're the ones that think more rationally. They see two guys, like, this is disgusting. So what would they push a lot more? Lesbianism. In movies, in songs, and award ceremonies, etc., etc., etc. They push it. In terms of the emotional cycles, the women are more emotional. They will talk a lot more about feelings. These are two people that love each other. These are people that are born that way. These are people that go through internal struggles. These are people that have to hide for so long. These people that have to get kicked out of their homes because their families don't accept them. So they played on the physical side with the men, not by putting two males in your face, but by putting two females in your face. He, there, movie, song, award ceremony, famous person, person in parliament, etc. And they played on the emotional side. It got to a point where people accepted. They go, I wouldn't want it for myself, I wouldn't want it for my children, I wouldn't want to be like these people. But we accept that people can make that choice. From the acceptance, now it's promoted. Now it's promoted. And in many cases, it's forced upon you to accept that as something completely natural, normal. And the one who opposes it, he's extreme, he's wrong, he's a fundamentalist, he's conservative, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It starts with acceptance and goes all the way there. We don't want our children to be like that. And we know that a big number of them, especially the most famous of them, they are homosexuals. You say, yes, my daughter knows the difference between right and wrong. Okay, she knows the difference between right and wrong at this young age. But once she accepts this person, how does she look at what they do as bad later on? But she loves them. She loves them. Just like you as her dad and mum, let's say you're both, alhamdulillah, righteous Muslims, your wife wears proper hijab, the dad has a bead, maybe he wears a thobe, etc. If she goes to her non-Muslim friends, they may look at her mum and think something weird. But because your daughter loves her mother, she accepts her no matter what, and she'll defend her no matter what. Because she loves her mother. Even though all of her friends might find her weird. When she loves this soccer player, she becomes her 10 years, she loves this soccer player. And the sheikh says it's wrong, the Islamic school says it's wrong, everyone says it's wrong. But because she already loves this individual, she idolizes this individual, she looks up to this individual, everyone, whatever anyone says, the emotion overtakes that logic and rationale and knowledge, and she follows her emotion. No, it can't be that bad. Surely it can't be that bad. And then ayyadan billah leads to other things. What else are they doing? Taban, from an Islamic perspective, they're dressing inappropriately. You need short and a t-shirt. You need for a woman to be like that out in the open. We say this is unacceptable for us as Muslims. Tayyib. Does it stop there? Of course it doesn't stop there. When, mashallah, they take their jerseys off after they play a game and they swap jerseys to each other. Or one of them sees a young girl in the crowd, she wants to also give her jersey. So she takes off her jersey and she gives it to her. You as a Muslim, as an individual, it went from a t-shirt to now she's in a bra. And everyone's applauding and everyone's going, mashallah, what a beautiful act she done. For her to what? Give a jersey to a fan? That's beautiful, that's excellent. But did she have to do while she's in a bra? Again, the desensitization that we are having regarding these matters and where they lead to later on in the future. We think it stops there. It doesn't stop there. It gets worse. I don't know if most of you have seen the soccer players or not, but generally speaking, female professional athletes, especially in sports like soccer, are they developed or they're usually underdeveloped in their body parts? They're usually underdeveloped. Why? A lot of this, again, is changing the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From a young age, they want to change how the woman's body develops. Instead of her being feminine, because if she's developed, it's going to be hard. Her stature is wrong, her back is out, it causes problems. So the more underdeveloped she becomes, the more athletic she can be. There was an article just in this World Cup, and this was 2 weeks ago I read it, so Allahu Alam if there was any more. 2 weeks ago, 37 ACL injuries happened in this World Cup. 37 ACL injuries. The NRL, for example, you play the whole season, which are much more games, and there are much more players, and they won't get 37 ACL injuries. In this World Cup, 37 ACL injuries. Why? Because the woman's body is built different. What was their solution? Instead of looking at what's appropriate and not appropriate for them according to their biology, they said, no, we need to get women training from a younger age. What are they trying to say? Because their hips develop a certain way. Their bodies develop a certain way. So you train it from a younger age, that development starts to change. That development starts to change and they start to develop more like boys. So that their body structure can handle the movement and the energy needed to play these types of sports, and so it loosens and lessens the chance of injury, etc. As Muslims, again, we, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, have these things sorted out. We understand these very easily. But when they want to promote it to the world, that this is what your daughters should be like, and this is who we want your daughters to aspire to be like, when you as a Muslim allow your children to watch things like this, these are going to people that they say, you know what, yes, what a beautiful thing. Right to the next World Cup. The next World Cup, if not that one, the one after 100%, Wallahu Alam, they'll put, the first Muslimah hijabi, playing for the Methoders. And everyone's like, Allahu Akbar, Muslims, finally, we're in these positions. The one in Morocco, the one that was playing for Morocco. Allahu Akbar, the first Muslim hijabi to play in a World Cup. And everyone's like up in arms. These are role models for our daughters. Is that hijab? Is that hijab? This is aib to wear in front of her father. Aib to wear in front of her brother. Aib to wear in front of her cousins. Aib to wear in front of, at the shops. She wears in front of the whole world. This is not right Islamically. But it's part of that desensitization. For you to lose more and more and more of your Islamic identity, until at the end of it, there's nothing left. You're just a show. Just like the Christians, unfortunately, they've stooped to a low where the majority, not all, the majority of Christians, they're Christian by name. Hi, my name is Matthew, I'm Christian. What do you implement for your religion? Nothing. When do you go to church? Never. Do you agree with everything in the Bible? Not really. How are you a Christian then, Matthew? My parents were Christian. Thank you very much. We're going to have the same. Hi, my name is Muhammad, I'm a Muslim. Muhammad, do you pray? On and off. Do you ever go to the masjid? I don't really get a chance. Do you fast Ramadan? I try my best. Do you believe everything that came in the Quran? Look, the majority of it, yeah. We laugh now and we think, what a joke. How can a Muslim ever be like that? Again, Christians didn't think they were going to end up like that. But they did. Because they slowly but surely skinned them from the reality of their religion. And what are we doing as Muslims? As the Prophet ﷺ prophesied, we're following in their footsteps. We'll get to a point where, again, she'll wear a hijab in terms of covering her hair, but everything else is vacant from the teachings of Islam. And we need to be extremely wary of this. And part of that is learning alternatives for our children to look up to. Part of that is learning alternatives. If you do not give your children proper role models to look up to, then they'll look at left, right, and center, and they'll find others. If you don't teach them who the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were, who the Salaf were, who the great Mujahideen in the Ummah were. You don't teach them who the great men in Islamic history are. You don't teach them about the great Muslims that are alive today. If we don't instill that in our children, then they're going to say, you know what, of course, how can I not want to be like Ronaldo? How can I not want to be like Messi? How can I not want to be like LeBron James? How can I not want to be like Tom Cruise? How can I not want to be like these individuals? They're in my face 24/7 and they're put on pedestals. Of course I want to be like them. But when you teach them who your companions are, who your prophets are, who the people that they really should look up to, at least you're giving them an alternative, inshallah, for them to have people to follow in their footsteps. Some of the companions, when you read their narrations, even the companions of Allah themselves, their kids are named all after prophets. Why? In the hope that they take their footsteps. Some other companions are only named their children after other companions, other great companions. Why? So that their children grow up like that. And the companions will say, we used to teach our children al-maghazi, we used to teach our children the battles that used to happen, just like we used to teach them the Quran. Why would they teach them the battles? Just like they used to teach them the Quran. For what reason? For them to have that love, that fire remain kindled inside. That this was a warrior, he done this and he done this and he done this. You know all the beautiful love stories that we see in movies. This guy done this and this guy done that and this guy done this. And it's all fake. It's all fake and it's all CGI and it's from some guy's imagination. That was on LSD, he just wrote something and they put it in a movie. In our Islamic history, it actually happened. It actually happened. The stories of bravery and the stories of courage and the stories of patience and the stories of being outnumbered and the stories of Allah sending help from the heavens and the stories of the mothers being patient and the wives being patient. All of these things are true. All of these things are true. And when your children, they know it, they look up to these people and think, Allahu Akbar, how it must have been. This is something that we need to keep in mind constantly, especially in the climate that we live in, where so many people have gone so far astray simply because of the people that they aspire to be. From amongst the women in Islamic history, which our daughters and our mothers and our wives and our sisters and our nieces, and the men also, because there's many lessons in them for the men, should aspire to be like, are these four women: Khadija, Fatima, Maryam, and Asiya. Inshallah, today we'll go through two of them briefly, and then next week, inshallah, we'll go through the next two. Asiya and Maryam. They were taban before, time-wise. They were before. Asiya is the wife of who we said? Fir'aun. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in the Quran that a great role model and example for the believers is the wife of Fir'aun, Asiya. Many of the girls, they're called Asiya, and they love the name Asiya. And people love to call their children Asiya, but again, they need to know who you're calling after. It's excellent that you know the name, beautiful. But now at least teach them who these people were. Regarding Asiya, not much is known through Islamic history or even from the books of those before us about the wife of Fir'aun, because as you can imagine, this is a very secretive type of relationship. Even now, for you to know about what's his name, Mohammed bin Salman, about his wife, there's not much that you will know except what they put out. Why? Because the ruling and the elite, they have a lot of secrets regarding their family, and they're not in the public eye 24/7, except what they put out there. The wife of Fir'aun, she lived in the house of Fir'aun. We know that Musa alayhi salam, when his mother put him in the river, and they ended up at the doorstep of Fir'aun. The wife of Fir'aun is the one that told Fir'aun to keep this baby and not to kill this baby. As the baby got older, obviously there's a connection with the baby. Not only that, she sees the reality of Fir'aun. So eventually when Musa alayhi salam is sent with the prophethood, she knows the truthfulness, she knows the character of Musa alayhi salam, and she knows the lies and the deception and the arrogance and the tyranny of her husband, Fir'aun. When Musa alayhi salam gave da'wah, when Musa alayhi salam gave this message, that message lived in the heart of Asiya. It lived in the heart and it grew in her heart to the extent that she accepted Islam. When she accepted Islam, obviously Fir'aun is not going to accept this. So he done what he could from torturing her and commanded others to torture her in order for her to turn back, but she remained firm. And to Allah Azza wa Jal took her soul and she died as a believer. She died as a believer. Taban, amazing lessons to learn from the story of Isa alayhi salam. Even again, not much is known in its entirety, but Allah Azza wa Jalla says it's a good example for us. And it's very easy to learn the lessons. From amongst them, number one, for you to follow the truth, no matter what your circumstances are. To the best of your ability, follow the truth. Don't say, Wallah, my dad is this person, or my cousin is this person, or I'm from this tribe, I can't follow the truth. Many people, they say, oh, I can't implement the deen. Why? I have to commit this major sin. Why? Because my village. If I don't do it, everyone's going to laugh at me. Or if I don't do it, everyone's going to go against me. Well, you got to learn from women like Asiya. Doesn't matter who's against you. Her husband, who was the greatest tyrant known in Islamic history, the one that claimed to be Allah. He said, there's no deity besides me, there's no God besides me. This is how great his tyranny was. And so she went against him. Why? Because she followed the truth. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There's no obedience to the creation if it means a disobedience to the Creator. Another lesson that you can learn from the story of Asiya alayhi salam is for you to know that you need to sacrifice at times. There are going to be times where you need to sacrifice. Imagine the luxury that she lived in. Yani what we dig up nowadays from the pharaohs of the past, gold and jewelry and slaves and all of these things. All of these amazing things that now we're digging up. Allahu alam how they were when they were alive. But she said, I'm going to sacrifice this for the truth. And this is from the importance of following the truth. When you follow the truth, your iman strengthens in order for you to have the ability to sacrifice. But if you constantly compromise on your deen, you get to a point where nothing, unfortunately, you can sacrifice. How many people, they start off from a very young age, when they become of puberty, 14, 15, 16 years old, something's haram, oh, but my friends are doing it. Something's haram, but society's doing it. Something's haram, but it's fun to do. Something's haram, but I like to watch it. Something's haram, but I don't want to do it. This is an obligation, it's a little bit hard. This is an obligation, I don't want to sacrifice. From a young age. So when they get older, they're willing to sacrifice, ayadhan billah, the whole deen. The whole deen they're willing to sacrifice. Why? Because they never learned to sacrifice from a young age. When you sacrifice for that which is right, your iman gets stronger. The stronger your iman gets, when these big tests come, like what she faced, you can also overcome it. She sacrificed at her time the world at her time. She was the queen. What do we have to sacrifice? Sacrifice not showing your head. Sacrifice not showing your body. Sacrifice not going to the beach. Sacrifice you're not earning an extra $100 a week. Sacrifice sometimes the most basic of things. The most basic of things, and we can't. Why? Because we haven't gotten ourselves used to the idea of sacrifice. This is a major issue. A lesson from the story of Asiya, not to marry a man that is bad. Not to marry a man that is bad. Taban, she's an exception from the ones whose husbands are bad, and she became righteous and upright. She's an exception to the rule. The majority of women, they usually will follow their husbands. If the husband is upright, you find them also many times upright. If they're good women, yani. But if their husbands are bad, unfortunately sometimes they also follow their husbands in the bad that they do. And this is incorrect. Asiya is an exception to the rule. Asiya is an exception. We as Muslims are taught to marry a righteous woman, and the women are taught to marry righteous men. So when we raise our daughters and we are instilling in them values and morals and ethics, it's important also to teach them who is an appropriate man to marry and to try and find the appropriate man. And for us not to leave it, wallah, go and fall in love and whoever you find, you find. No. Same thing with the women. They should have standards of who they're looking for in order for marriage, in order to get married. You marry a person who doesn't pray. How many sisters that want to put on the hijab, the husband says take it off. You put the hijab on, I'll divorce you. She wants to go to Hajj, her husband says, no way my wife's going to go to Hajj. You go with me to these other places, no way there. She doesn't want to get to a mixed wedding. She says, no, you're my wife, you have to come with me. The husband goes and he earns haram income, and the wife has to put up with that. This is a big issue, a massive issue. If you, from the beginning, marry someone upright, inshallah you won't have these issues later on. This is a very important lesson for the sisters. A lot of girls, wallah, they want a bad boy. Oh, mashallah, I want a bad boy. I want a bad boy who's repented. Get married a bad boy, and maybe he'll repent in 20 years after your marriage. Or he got a reputation, he hasn't even repented, but she just hollers. She loves him. So he gets married, and then she gets cut when he's still doing haram things on the side. Now, what did you expect when you married him? Think of the man that you want to be a father to your children, and same thing for the brothers. Think of the woman that you want to raise your children in the future. Not now, wallah, mashallah, she looks so amazing on Instagram, and then so you say, yallah, I want to marry that girl. Okay, do you want your daughter to look like that on Instagram in 20 years' time? If the answer is no, then don't marry her mum like that. Same thing with the sisters. Think of the future. Oh, I like that guy. Why? MashaAllah, big boy, tattoos, drug dealer. I love that, tabarakallah. Okay, do you want your son to be like that? You want your son to be in and out of jail? You want your son to be hooked on drugs? Is that what you want for your son? If the answer is no, then why are you marrying a guy like that? You have to understand who you're marrying. Another lesson that we can learn from Asiya is the willingness to leave. Not just sacrifice, the willingness to leave. If I have two options in front of me. One is stay in this corrupt marriage with a husband that's not going to change, or to get divorced. Islamically, divorce is better. Islamically, divorce is better. I've got two options only. One is stay with this corrupt husband who's going to force me to be bad or corrupt, or he's not going to change. He's not going to change from his wicked ways. Or leave that relationship. Then we told the person, leave. Leave, especially when, alhamdulillah, there's big consequences. It is sometimes from the beginning of marriage, or the person doesn't have children. Their partners, they find out they thought in the engagement period they were very good, they get bad, their partners are very, very, very bad. Very oppressive, very corrupt, very involved in haram, etc. They only found that out after marriage. Don't stay in the marriage. If he's a good person, but he's got a lot of faults, and he's willing to get better, then possibly, no issue. And you speak to someone specific about your situation. But if the person's completely arrogant, you have to change for what I want. No, this is the person that you leave. Especially if you don't have children. And even if you didn't have children, then again, no one take what I say and go run away from home now. That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you're in that situation, speak to someone to get proper advice about your specific state and your specific scenario. But don't be scared to leave. You need to get divorced from that person. Otherwise, things, generally speaking, are only going to get worse. So you need to be very, very, very careful of that and mindful of that. A lesson that we learn from Asiya is courage. For people to be courageous. If there's something right, there's something that's truth, and you follow it no matter what the consequences are. We are not told to be people that are stupid. We are not told to be people that are immature. We are not told to be people that cause more issues. This is not who we are as Muslims. We have guidelines. But if you're able to follow a path, and that path is going to require from you patience, it's going to require courage, be that person. Be that person. And be willing to deal with the consequences. And this is something that we need to instill in our young boys and our young girls from a young age, for them to be strong. When you build individuals with weak character, what ends up happening? They can't face any adversity in life. Even a new job they're scared to do. Someone talks to them in the street, they get scared. It's not how we should be. We should be people who are strong. People who are strong, people that are strong physically, mentally, emotionally, religiously, and the like. Asiya was like that. Asiya was like that. There are many lessons that we can learn from Asiya. Inshallah Azza wa Jal will suffice with that, and we'll delay speaking about Maryam alayhi salam until next week, only because of the time with that longer introduction. هذا والله أعلم. محمد وعلى آله محمد وصحبه أجمعين.